Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Active Transportation and Safety Advisory meeting today. I would like to acknowledge our representatives from the OPP and our city staff and committee members and the mayor who are joining us on the meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, may I have approval of the agenda for July 7th? Sure. Moved by Councillor Quinte, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? And carried. May I have approval of the minutes of March 3rd, 2025 Transportation and Safety meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Harrison, seconded by Councillor Reid. Questions or comments? Member Warnham.
Yes, a question regarding a motion that I made during that meeting. It's motion number 25-005. In the minutes, it's identified as OPP annual report. There were two parts to that motion. That one part is missing from the motion as described. First, there was the links to the annual OPP reports that would be emailed to committee members, and that's reflected in the minutes. However, there was another element of a request to the OPP to share data on fatalities and injuries and locations of areas with frequent collisions, and that was also part of that motion.
Through the OPP, is that something that can be completed? Just
Madam Chair, perhaps if I can just correct, I remember the discussion had, and
okay.
I remember the discussion around that that information was available. The public information is available on the reports submitted by the OPP on their board meeting and on the annual report by the OPP. So that information is already contained in those reports. So I remember that discussion that came about during that committee meeting.
So that was part of the motion, the OPP detachment report. However, there was information that was identified that was separate from that. So during the detachment meeting, there was a discussion around injury and fatality data, and also areas of high collision rates. And I believe it was Staff Sergeant Doolin. He said that that data could be provided, just removing the any personalized data, anonymized. It was data that they had already collected, a 10-year study that they did, and part of that motion was the request that that be. So they can certainly decline that or decide how that they want to do that, but the motion did include that request, and that was passed by the committee.
Mr. Angelo, maybe what we could do is ask the OPP to provide that information instead of revisiting the motion, ask if they could get it to Mr. Warham, if that's reasonable. And as Mr. Warham said, if they don't have it or don't feel it necessary, then we can get back to that.
We can do that, but in addition, our clerk's department will check the minutes from the video from the last meeting and just confirm that. So. Okay,
appreciate that.
Through you, Madam Chair, we
Yes.
do have that information, and it is at our OPP detachment board meeting, and anytime, that's always available in public information. So, yes, it is. We don't send it out to different organizations, but it's always available.
Thank you, Mayor Harrison. I know you sit on the board as well. Mr. Warham?
So, yes, I do think that reviewing the video makes sense. I will say that it was clarified that there was data in that report that had not been shared specifically with the city.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments regarding the minutes? All those in favor? And carried. Thank you. I wanted to also add that we did have regrets from Councillor Katsovas and Councillor Stedall today, and they did provide those early on. We'll now move to delegations and presentations, and we have with us today Ms. Chris Gobris, a resident who will address the chair and committee advocating for the implementation of traffic calming measures along Highway 2 between Trenton and Belleville, including the section passing through CFB Trenton, and we have been provided information. Following the presentation, we have a detailed report from Mr. Angelo, and we will certainly have Mr. Angelo speak to it following your presentation, ma'am. Thank you for coming, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chris Goberis, and I do not live in the Trenton area, but my family does. And that makes this community very important to me. We're here today not just to, as a concerned grandparent and family, but as people who have experienced, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I'm trying not to read, but as people who have experienced a devastating loss that no family should ever have to endure. Our granddaughter was killed by a driver who was speeding and under the influence. Her life was stolen in a senseless, preventable moment, and our family will carry that pain forever. That's why I'm asking you to seriously consider expanding the use of traffic cameras and directing the income from those cameras or fines into road safety and traffic calming initiatives. This isn't about punishment, this is about prevention. I'd like to present my case in 7 points. Point 1, preventing tragedies like ours. When people know they're being held accountable, when they know there are consequences for speeding, they change their behavior. Cameras reduce reckless driving. I believe that if cameras had been in place where my granddaughter was killed, she might still be with us today. Point 2, a serious hazard on Highway 2. I want to specifically highlight a section of Highway 2 between Trenton and Belleville. You'll see that up on the road there, or on the screen there. And I'll pull mine out so I can see what I'm talking about. In that image, you're missing the actual RCAF road, so it's a little bit further down, but that doesn't really matter because the measurement is the important thing. This is the wrong slide. May I go back one? Can I do that? There we go. That's better. All right. We're still missing ends of that, but my point will still come across. So I want to specifically highlight a section of Highway 2 between Trenton and Belleville, particularly the stretch that runs through CFB Trenton. The road has become a serious safety hazard, and we believe it urgently needs traffic calming measures. Please note that I am awaiting the specific data for the section of road that I am addressing through a Freedom of Information Act request, and I have not received it yet. They take quite a bit of time to send those out. I also understand that Belleville has installed several traffic cameras at this point, but I have information suggesting that Trenton has no traffic cameras at this point, and I'm happy if that is incorrect, but just to point to the availability of traffic cameras. Throughout the trial surrounding my granddaughter's death, we learned that the section of Highway 2 is notorious for speeding. Video evidence showed that most drivers exceeded the speed limit consistently with little to no deterrence in place. The road is straight, flat, and wide, essentially functioning as a racetrack through the heart of a community and a military base. That should never be acceptable. To help illustrate this, I've provided 3 maps. The map you see on the screen at the moment, as I said, is missing either side of the section. This is showing the stretch between RCAF Road to Anson Avenue. This is a span of 1.22 kilometers, or in meters, 1,220 meters, with no traffic lights, no intersections, or calming measures at all. Map 2, again, is missing either side. This is not in order, unless, there we go. covers from Anson Avenue to South Perimeter Road, which is only 0.68 kilometers or 682.29 meters, with a three-way light at Commonwealth, or a Commonwealth Way, which is even a shorter distance between traffic lights. Then my final map, if I could go back to that, there we go. This is detailing to the west side, shows the stretch from RCAF Road to the Canadian Tire Mall, a commercial area, and that distance is only 0.56 kilometers or 563.54 meters. So if you look in terms of the surrounding distances between intersections where there is a stoplight, these other stoplights are within a half of the distance that occurs between RCAF Road and Anson Avenue. What's important here is the context. Based on my research, urban intersections typically occur every 200 to 300 meters. And even in suburban and rural areas, signal spacing ranges between 500 and 800 meters. So the 1.22 kilometers or 1,220 meters span with no signals or traffic calming measures right in a populated and high traffic zone is well outside the norm. It creates an environment where speeding feels encouraged rather than controlled. Point 3, slowing down dangerous drivers. Speeding and red light running are two of the most common causes of fatal collisions. Across Canada, traffic cameras are making a difference. In Toronto, speed cameras in school zones led to a 50% drop in speeding violations. In Ottawa, there was a 30% reduction in speeding within just 6 months. These are real results, lives being saved because drivers slowed down. Point number 4, using fine revenue for good. We know people often ask, where does the ticket money go? And I think that's a fair question. It should go right back into making our streets safer. In Calgary, for example, revenue from speed cameras is being used for safer crosswalks and pedestrian bridges. In Ottawa, it's funding traffic signal upgrades and street lighting improvements. Let's follow that model. Let the consequences of bad driving fund the solutions that protect good drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists. Point 5, ensuring accountability. There's a deep pain in knowing that someone's careless choices led to permanent loss. But traffic cameras offer an unbiased, consistent way to hold drivers accountable. No arguments, no excuses, just a clean, fair consequence for putting others at risk. We can't bring back those we've lost, but we can make sure fewer families join us in that grief. Point 6, supporting long-term change. Traffic camera data is not just for ticketing. It guides smart infrastructure decisions. Cities use it to identify high-risk areas, adjust traffic patterns, and invest in improvements. In Montreal and Vancouver, these cameras helped cut down pedestrian injuries up to 35%. When cities act on that data, the entire community benefits for years to come. Point 7, proven Canadian success. This isn't theory, it's working right here at home. Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal have all seen improvements in driver behavior, accident reduction, and even fewer fatalities. In school zones alone, lives are being saved. The public supports it too. Polls show that over 75% of Canadians in major cities want speed cameras in high-risk areas. Why? Because they work. In closing, we lost our granddaughter because someone made a reckless choice, and nothing will ever undo that. If we can take the pain and use it to push for changes that save lives, then we must. Even though I'm not living here today, day to day, My roots and my family are firmly here. I care deeply about the safety of this community. Please use traffic cameras not just to issue tickets, but to change behavior. Use the revenue not just to balance the budget, but to fund crosswalks, education, and better infrastructure. And use the data not just to look back on what happened, but to prevent what could happen, especially on dangerous stretches like Highway 2 through CFB Trenton, where the absence of traffic control creates risk instead of safety. Let's be proactive. Let's be brave. And let's make sure fewer families face the kind of loss that has changed ours forever. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Gobris, for your very detailed and thoughtful presentation and for coming here today. Before we move to public input and the staff report related to Highway 2, members do have an opportunity to ask you questions, if that's okay. They may not want to, but we do have that opportunity for our delegations, for members to ask a question. Now, are there any questions of Ms. Gobris today, or would we wait? Going first to Councillor Boyce, and then I will go to Member McKellen. Councillor Boyce. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that, and certainly my heart and everyone's heart goes out to the families of the victims of that tragic accident and many others, and we see through the work of the OPP since July 3rd, I believe it's the stretch of Highway 2 from RCAF Road all the way to Belleville has been certainly being enforced in terms of speed, and I recognize that there have been 123 charges, of which 95 have been related to speed infractions. So I think that the need for enforcement of some type of Highway 2 and other stretches is certainly warranted, and I believe that our municipality should, as Ms. Gilberto says, investigate the need for the speed cameras, and any criticism of the speed cameras certainly isn't because of the deterrence, because we see on Sydney Street and other streets in Belleville how the traffic has slowed down. Like, I mean, it's very simple just to go on those streets and see how the speeds have gone from, say, 60 plus down to 40, which is the speed limit. And I think when we do look at cameras, I think exactly as she said, we target the revenue towards things that will help in the future in terms of traffic calming purposes and keeping our roads as safe as we possibly can.
Thank you, Councillor Boyce. We will be discussing the report. Are there questions specific to Ms. Gobris? Well, and then she can sit down if there are no questions. Councillor McKellen.
No.
Or, sorry, Member. Gotta quit promoting you, Greg.
Yeah, I know. Hi. I too feel for you and your family.
Thank you.
It's a terrible loss. I'm a little surprised here today. I feel like I'm caught off guard. Did you include your materials to your city that you're going to be talking about imposing radar camera type?
Yes, that was in my
Because I didn't
emails.
receive that in any of the materials.
It would have gone to Sarah Pond.
I see things talked about as traffic calming measures. Nowhere does it talk about these traffic cameras for laying
don't-
tickets and offenses.
I don't have that specific
So
information.
I don't know if that's you or if it just got merged in with the word traffic calming by city staff. I don't know. But I am a little surprised that we're facing this question here today.
Well, it's not a question, it's a request.
Okay, it's a
Yeah,
request.
yeah.
And I might as well be honest right up front. A request from someone out of town on a purely local issue doesn't sit well with me either. So
My family lives here.
your family lives here.
Yes.
You don't. That's what you told me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I just, in the incident you talk about, which is a tragic incident with an impaired driver, like, to me, this is one of the issues with traffic camera type things. I believe it leads to a reduction of police in those streets. Maybe not overall, but in those streets, they feel it's being taken care of by a machine. That machine has no impact on impaired drivers, none whatsoever.
And I did not focus on the impairment aspect of the accident.
I'm sorry,
but
you
the
made a
fact
comment that if we had these cameras in place, maybe this incident wouldn't have occurred.
I noted that in our evidence that was put through in our court case, there was evidence of speeding beyond just the gentleman in our case. This is really nothing to do with our case. This is to do with that particular stretch of road and reducing the amount of people that feel comfortable speeding on that road. This is not to, like I said originally, I said this is not about punishment or trying to get more punishment for anybody. It's about prevention. So I'm trying to assist others in not having to experience this.
And to me, the key problem is an impaired driver. And the key solution there is public awareness and police presence. That's the only thing.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a point of order. I think that our procedural bylaw allows us to ask clarifying questions. This feels a little bit more commentary that would be more appropriate to the discussion later on. Totally
Sure.
appropriate. I think that, like...
Sure, we can save it for
yeah.
discussion.
Yes,
later on. I'm fine with that.
Again, are there any specific questions to the presenter today? Councillor Armstrong?
Again, my condolences, very tragic. You mentioned something about traffic lights between that stretch and end. There's 4 sets of lights there
In
that stretch.
from our,
RCF Road or Highway
Anson
2.
Road?
Highway 2 past all the hangars and all that. There's
okay,
4
so
sets of
I'm
lights.
speaking specifically about RCA Road between Anson Avenue and between RCAF Road and Anson Avenue. And I do note that beyond Anson Avenue, there is a secondary, an additional light at Commonwealth Avenue. So are you?
There's 4 sets of lights.
You're saying there are 4 sets of lights?
At RCF Road, at the start of RCF Road, that's 1 set, correct? RCF and 2. Then what we call the gate, main gate. Then just past that, at the Commonwealth,
What's the main gate?
it's pretty much halfway along, correct?
Anson Road, is that what
Is
you're
that what it's
talking the
called?
main gate is? Because I don't see any other entrance onto the highway until Anson Road.
That's the main gate, okay?
So I'm
there,
talking about the stretch.
you want another light between there?
Yes, because that's 1,220 kilometers,
Mm-hmm.
which is well beyond what the average distance,
And the
And the
speed
light-
limit is what, 60 there?
60.
Coming from an 80 down to a 60.
It is 60 at RCAF Road.
That's 80 to 60.
On
From-
the east side.
from the east
From,
si-
you're talking from Belleville.
The base, yes.
Yeah.
East. That's 60
So-
right along there.
The whole
And I
base.
think the OPP have also set up speed traps at that end because of that. It's been identified as a height. So there is a police presence, more so there than
Yes.
normal.
I do understand.
No, I'm
that there
just
is-
pointing out some
Yeah.
facts.
Yes.
So we're going to move forward if I could. So again, I appreciate you coming and the information that you provided. I understand you did, I guess, give it to
did, yes.
city staff.
Yes.
And I imagine that Mr. Angelos included some of that in his report, as well as the information we did receive from MAD Canada.
Right.
So please stay.
Could I
and-
just interrupt one moment?
certainly.
I misspoke when you said you want another light there, and I don't want another light there. I'm asking for there to be a speed camera. Yeah.
Speed
Just to break that stretch down, yes, to a more reasonable length, so that people are aware of the speed as they travel. I apologize for
Well, that's
interrupting.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for coming and your information. We will address it in a report coming up here shortly, but our next item is to go to public input. Yes, sir. Please come and your name and address for our information, and welcome.
Chair, my name is Gerard Edison. I live at 496 Highway 33. Reason I'm here is a couple of years ago, I brought it to the mayor and council's attention about the speed limit along the 2-kilometer stretch north of the 401. And we were looking for a speed reduction in that area from the 80 that it is down to 60. It was turned down. It went before the OPP were involved. They put the speed camera up at the intersection, and then it went to Facebook and did the Facebook survey. I had every person that lived on that stretch, every homeowner there, sign the petition to lower the speed limit. So the reason I'm here is I'm looking for a review of this decision because in the last month, within 3 weeks, there's been 3 accidents in front of my house, right in front of my house. First one was the driver lost control and took out 2 mailboxes, mine being one of them. Mine's a good-sized post. So the following week, I'm out there digging the hole and I'm fixing the mailbox. I come back to the house, I had another accident. Driver rear-ended a car making a left-hand turn. Fire and ambulance attended that. Then a week later, a dump truck hit a car that pulled out in front of it on the highway there. Last year, a van had lost control in front of my home. Actually, it was 2 doors down from me, lost control. It was a delivery van and catering van, and they were heading to Frankfurt. They went off the road and they traveled on the shoulder for just over 100 meters, and they took out a hydro pole this big. They shut down the highway. The hydro pole had to be replaced. Of course, the police, ambulance, fire department, everybody attended. Hydro, they had to replace the pole and rewire. We're looking at a speed, like for us to come out and to go out of our driveway onto that highway, it's like if you see anybody coming from any direction, north or south, you wait until they're gone before you pull out on the highway, because we see constant speeding there all the time. I'm in the race stretch where they do the passing. So once they come around from the north and they get past Lock Road, that's where they get out and they pull out and they pass all drivers that are somewhat slowing them down. The speed reduction for 2 kilometers is a 30-second reduction in the time. It's going from 80 to 60 in that stretch. And at the 401, it's 80 kilometers at the exits there. I get off on the 401 there, and you had to wait a long time because you had to make sure people are a long ways away before you pull out into traffic there with the speed. I see the speeding there every day, like even coming in here today. Like I was coming out of the driveway, and this guy, there was somebody wasn't going fast enough for him, so you had to get around him. It's constant there. There's going to be some serious injuries there. The OPP have attended all these accidents. They've been there constantly with the accidents. We need slow people down. The signs, I don't know, the signs, the speed flashing signs, do they record speed limits? There's no radar or anything in those signs?
Anyway, just as a matter of time, public input is 3 minutes. It's intended not for questions, sir. From you, you can talk to us, but we don't ask you questions.
Okay.
We'll take the information that you've sent to us.
I'm asking that the signs that you have the sign at the beginning of both ends there, and it's an opportunity for people to beat the signs. Put the signs north and south right in front of my house. I don't care. And record the speeds of the people going north and south, and you'll see how fast people are traveling along that stretch. somebody's going to get seriously injured. Like, it's just one of those spots. I'd like for it to be reviewed. I don't know what your process is to have something reviewed. If I have to go through everything again to get everybody's signature and submit everybody the information again?
You can
or-
talk to Mr. Angelo, but my understanding is, yes, you would. The whole process would start over.
That's fine.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else under public input? Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, thank you very much. We will now move on to our first report. Believe there's no correspondence. The staff reports are before us. The first one relates to highway traffic calming. I'm going to have, at Highway 2, I'm going to read the motion, ask for a mover and seconder, and then I'm going to have Mr. Angelo speak to the report. Okay? So the recommendation from the report 25007 regarding Old Highway 2 traffic calming measures proposal. It is recommended that the report, traffic calming measures proposal, be received for information, and the committee recommends to council that solar speed signs be installed along Old Highway 2 between RCAF Road and Quinte View Drive, and that committee recommends to council a community safety zone between RCAF Road and Quinte View Drive be approved, and recommends to council the placement of MAD memorialization signs between RCAF Road and Quinte View Drive. May I have a mover for the motion, moved by Councillor Armstrong, a seconder for the motion, Councillor Boyce. I will now, before we go to vote and discussion, have Interim CAO Chris Angelo speak to the report and the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And for committee's information, staff took a look at this section of Old Highway 2 from RCFA Road to Quinte View Drive. And we've had some discussions with the OPP over the last several months about the speed of vehicles in that area. And in those discussions, we became aware of some potential issues with speeding and enforcement. And in light of that, and in light of what occurred a number of years ago with the tragedy, staff are recommending that in order for us to determine if there actually is a speeding issue or not, installing these solar flashing speed signs so that with the data collected from all of those speed signs, we're able to give that information to the OPP, and then they could do focus and enforcement patrols in that area. One of the things we don't know is there's certain times of the day or the week that there are issues of speeding. And this information, this data that these signs would give us, would give that information to the OPP so they can do those focus patrols and enforcement. Secondly, staff firmly believe, because of this area is an area of concern, especially with the entrances to the largest Air Force base in Canada, that this area would be well served as being a community safety zone. And in essence, that really just doubles the fines for anybody caught speeding in that area, which I think is important, and it's important for us as a community to recognize that area as an area of concern. In addition, I attached an email request from MAD Canada requesting on behalf of one of the family members the installation of a memorialized sign in that area. And in fact, I thought there was going to be several signs, but it's just one sign that we're requesting to be placed in the incident or the area of the incident that occurred a few years ago. And with that in mind, staff are very supportive of that. Staff Sergeant, Acting Staff Sergeant Viss and Sergeant Ellington are here today to answer any questions about sort of from the police side in regards to the speeding of vehicles in that area. But in my viewpoint, I think the recommendations are very warranted in that area. And since we do not have speed cameras in our municipality, that's something I have to bring a report back to council on, because there is a capital investment required to implement such a program. I believe these are the most sort of pressing issues that we need to address at this point in time with these recommendations. So,
thank you, Mr. Angelo. I'm going to ask questions or comments. Councillor Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just as a, because I'm not sure if the Ontario government has changed the rule yet, though, but after you present the report at some point about speed cameras, is one of the prerequisites for locations that it has to be still a community safety zone? Because I know that if council, after you present the report, and if council so chooses to elect to have those zones, we would already then have in place a community safety zone at this location then. Is that correct, that that's a prerequisite?
Angelo?
For
Through you, Madam Chair, that is correct, Councillor Boyce. In addition, there's a fair bit of background information that we need to provide before we install certain traffic cameras at certain areas. You need background data on speeding, issues, et cetera, so you can judge whether the cameras are actually working or not. In addition, and I guess goes back to the earlier comment about some of the data that we're getting from some of these cameras. Staff are going to be presenting all of the data from all of the, I believe it's 6 locations where we have solar speed signs throughout the municipality, back to this committee at the next meeting, so that you can see the benefits of if these solar signs are working or not. I can tell you, like, some of the data that we gathered very quickly for the one where Mr. Edison lives, the average speed over the last 19 months is 65 kilometers an hour. Now, that's outside of the area. It's at the beginning and at the end of the zone that where we put these signs. It's not in the middle where Mr. Edison resides and some of the neighbors. So maybe we need to take a look at maybe where the placement of those signs are, which is a good point from what he made at his presentation. But certainly we'll present this information back for committee for have a discussion on all of that.
Very good, very helpful as well. Councillor Armstrong.
Through you, Chair. If we designate community safety zones for Quinte West, will the speed limit be the same for each area? Because in Belleville, it's 40, and then in most spots, but in front of the hospital, it's 50, which seems backwards to me. So would we implement a bylaw saying if we have community zones, this is going to be the speed? Or is it each individual situation?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess it's dependent on each specific location. We can have multiple different community safety zones with different speeds. It just can't exceed 80 kilometers per hour in that community safety zone. So other sections of Old Highway 2 or County Road 2 going out towards Brighton that are in the 80 zone, that cannot be a safety zone, community safety zone. We'd have to lower the speed limit to something less than that.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor. Are there any further comments or questions? Mayor Harrison.
Well, I'd like some comments from our OPP officers, if it's possible.
Representatives, please, with regard, I believe Mr. Angelo has already consulted with them on these recommendations, but feel free to add.
I'm wanting to know.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, members of the council, your worship. My name is Acting Staff Sergeant John Viss, and I'm currently the Ops Manager at the Quinte West Detachment. I've been in Quinte West for 7 years now, and I can say that historically Old Highway 2 between RCAF and Wallbridge Loyalists has been an issue. We currently have a focus patrol, and we've partnered with Belleville Police, our local traffic unit, and the MTO to target what the OPP call the Big Four, so targeting with speeding, impaired driving, seatbelt compliance, and distracted driving. And early on, it's quite evident that there is an issue, as we've known all along, with the amount of enforcement that we've conducted over the first few days of our focus patrol. As Councilman Boyce mentioned, over 120 odd charges, most for speeding thus far, and we're still very early on in the month of July. So we're going to continue providing updates to the media and to the city with our joint initiative with Belleville, and I completely support this initiative.
Supplementary, Mr.
To you,
Mayor.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
just further to that, we've been talking about impaired driving. Can you tell us what the statistics are telling us with respect to drivers and impairment throughout, and I don't think it's just Quinte West, I think it's throughout the province. Go ahead, thank you.
Madam Chair, yes, I can comment that impaired driving is on the rise throughout our community. We've laid charges against 82 individuals thus far in the calendar year, and I believe we laid 70 in all of 2024. So impaired driving continues to be a major issue in the Quinte West, Hastings County area. Actually, just last weekend, we laid we located 3 impaired drivers this past weekend. I believe media release went out today. So yeah, it is on the rise. Unfortunately, people aren't getting the message.
Just further,
Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Mayor, sure.
So if you put in speed cameras, how does that help you as an officer detect anyone who's driving under the influence?
It doesn't, Your Worship. It slows people down, and I've seen the effects in the city of Belleville. But as far as deterring impaired driving, I don't believe it has an effect.
And that's the real issue, and I believe that's the real issue. And I'm not a teetotaler, don't think I am, but I don't believe that I have the right to be driving under any influence, and I'm not the only one that feels that way, because, what's happened here is, I think, a direct result of somebody making a bad decision, a very bad decision. And we have to be very careful as a council at this time what we do, because I know that case is before the courts, and it will be. So we're trying to walk a fine line at this point in time. I understand. I can't really explain in words how you feel. I just know how I would feel if I was in your shoes, and we'll do our best to do that. I've lived here a long time. I've never really seen that section of number 2 highway as being one where people do exceed the speed limit, but that's my opinion. I'm not a police officer. I'm not the guy out there on the road. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Mr. Warren, Committee Member Warren, and then to Councillor Armstrong, and then we'll soon call for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a couple of questions that you can pass on to staff as you see fit. Does the city have a specific policy on the creation of community safety zones? It was mentioned that there was some discussion around this particular area being identified. I know that some municipalities are very specific in schools only, and some are more just on an ad hoc basis. Does the city have a specific policy on how it creates community safety zones?
Mr. Angelo, can you add to that, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess yes and no. It's actually contained within our traffic calming policy, but nothing specific in regards to where, when, or how, so.
And then another question, do we know the speed limits on this section of road? Do we know the design speed of that road? It doesn't necessarily differentiate much visually from other areas of Highway 2 or County Road 2 where there's a higher speed limit. Do we know the design speed of this section?
Mr. Angelo?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe it was when it was under the province of Ontario jurisdiction, it was 80 kilometers an hour was the design speed. So in effect, it's probably 10 above that, so 90 kilometers an hour was the design speed at the time, but I'd have to verify that.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry,
Last
may I?
question, and we'll move to Councillor Armstrong, please.
Okay, so I guess my thought on that would be that if the design speed is 80 or 90, and we're looking at a speed limit of 50 to 60, all of the visual cues are kind of telling people to drive above the speed limit, the posted speed limit. So I certainly see the purpose of all of these things, but I guess I'm really hopeful that we consider other measures that will give drivers the cue that there are reasons to slow down. And then my other question is specifically related to the speed signs. where is the speed captured? Is it specifically in front of the sign where the driver sees that flashing light? Or is it also behind as they've passed beyond that sign? Because I think that that's one of the important factors. As people pass by these signs, are they speeding up? And is that being captured by those signs?
I'm not sure, Mr. Angelo?
Through Madam Chair, I believe it's only when you're approaching the sign, it's only capturing the advance, not in behind.
Councillor Armstrong, then Councillor Quinte.
Through you, Chair, to the OPP again. You talked about speeding charges up and all that. What about stunt driving and distracted driving charges? My understanding is text messaging is becoming the new drinking and driving problem.
So thus far with our focus patrol along Old Highway 2, a significant portion of our enforcement has been geared towards speeding. Generally speaking, we have access to a Sprinter van or an unmarked van that we use to help locate people that are using their cell phones. And we plan on using that method throughout the month of July.
Councillor Quinte.
Well, thanks, Madam Chair. So I do drive this section of the roadway quite frequently from Trenton to Belleville along Old Highway 2. And there are speeders out there, that's for sure. And one of the crazy stories of an automobile accident that happened recently was a vehicle left the roadway and somehow landed on top of somebody's garage. So I have no idea how that happened, but the garage is still being repaired. It's not finished yet. But in the decades that I've driven along this road, there are speeders along there, and I think enforcement by the OPP would go a long ways to reducing that. So I'm really glad to see that this enforcement program is currently in place. I have seen the OPP pull people over in the last week, just like they mentioned. And when people are going to be committing criminal acts, well, that's something completely different. And impaired driving is a criminal act. And I really don't understand why people think they're going to get away with it. It's been talked about for decades. Even when a person goes to get their driver's license, it's like mentioned right in their driver handbook. Like, just don't do it. But nowhere does it say how much money it's going to cost these people. And I think that the message needs to get out that if people are going to start realizing that these infractions could cost them $10,000 to $30,000, or worst case scenario, like the case that's before the court right now, and that recent impaired driving case that happened right along the between RCAF Road and Quinte View Road. Somebody's going to go to jail for sure, and nobody wants to do that. So I don't really understand how people think they're going to get away with this crap. So I am going to support the motion that's on the floor here, because we have to start somewhere. And if we get these cameras in place, no matter where they're recording the vehicle speed, we got to start somewhere and gathering the information so that our city staff can make a proper recommendation and get the input from the OPP, so that when they do bring it back to our committee or the council, we'll have as much information as possible on to deciding how to go forward. And I want to thank Mad Canada to stepping forward and making the request to post that sign. There's not a time that I drive through there that I don't think about those two young ladies that lost their lives. Every time I drive through there, I'm still shaking my head, because I still can't believe that happened, but it did. I didn't witness it. I didn't see it. I certainly heard about it that day. And I have been following the case in the news, along with many others, I'm sure. And now I understand the judge has put off his sentencing decision till August the 1st, or I hope he throws the book at the convicted criminal. Anyhow, I'm ready to vote.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Member McKellen, please. And I think that'll, unless there's any new speakers, we'll call for the vote. Greg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question through you to either the OPP or staff. With these traffic cameras that fences are laid through them, these radar cameras, are there points taken? Because my memory, when they had them before on the 401 and stuff, when I used to work, there were no points. Has that changed? Chris, do you know?
No points.
There's no points.
No points.
There's no points. So
It's
it's I don't know how many times you guys have stopped someone out on the highway. I know I have many times. And you stop the nice cars, right? The Lexus, the Lincolns, the Mercedes, and all the driver cares about is the points. That's all. I don't care if you're going to give me a couple $100 fine. Means nothing to me. Am I losing points? And when you tell them they were, they'd be all upset and try to get you to bring it down to where they're not losing points. So if there's no points on these cameras, and I understand there is some benefit from them, I'm not denying that speeds do generally slow down. I think your whole community feels uncomfortable like Big Brother's watching them, but they do slow down. But the fact is, if you're well off, it doesn't matter if you get a few tickets through the year. It really doesn't. They just pay the fine and move on. But the person that's not well off, that is rushing from one job they just finished to go work a shift at another job to try to get by, they get nailed. They can't afford it. I feel that that really it is an imbalance, that it's not treating everybody equally. And it's an important consideration when you're applying new devices. There's no discretion like there is with police officers. When I started policing, they told me, you see a cabbie and maybe you get him for something, he's speeding or running a red light or whatever, and you're looking at this and you could run up 6, 7, 8 charges, with discretion that I was taught by senior officers was, yeah, you got to make the message through. You got to send something through to get the point across. So yeah, maybe write one of those tickets and warn them on the rest of them, because this guy can't afford tons of fines, and the impact on him is disproportionate to the impact on someone who can't afford it. So in regards to the motion, I support most of the motion. I have no issue with the recommendation for a speed sign to be installed. No issue with the placement of the MAD memorialization signs in that area. I do have an issue with the community safety zone. In my experience, community safety zones were hospitals areas, school areas, playground areas, and when you start sprinkling them out everywhere, this is not a high population area as far as residential neighborhoods type thing. That is not the type of road we're talking about here. It's more like a commercial sort of feel with the traffic going in and out of the base, similar to what you might have at a large factory or something like that. The road is designed to carry a lot of traffic at a decent speed. I've driven it my whole driving life, and you do see some odd idiots. I'm not saying you don't, but in general, it works well. And I think we should reserve community safety zones for those specific areas, especially around kids, hospitals, the schools and the parks, and not water them down by sprinkling them around. And it seems to me almost like someone's planning a precursor for getting traffic cameras in for traffic enforcement. Let's do it now, and then it'll be all set when we get the cameras in. And that decision hasn't been made, from my understanding. And I must admit, I'm a little upset that this came as a surprise, this issue on traffic cameras today. I know it's not in the motion, but it does surprise me that it was not included. That's the last question. Chris, did you receive that information?
Madam Chair, I'm just conferring what we actually received or not, so.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Anyway.
That's my issue. I won't be voting for it if we
Okay.
include that community safety zone.
Okay, that we have the motion. You may have one more question, please, and we'll move on.
In line with Mr. McClellan's comments, I will make the motion to amend. I believe that there is certainly the potential for this to be identified as a community safety zone, but I think with its enmeshed connection with automated speed enforcement, that it makes sense to defer that until we have that discussion. So I will make the motion to amend that the rest of the recommendation continue, but that for now, the community safety zone be struck from the motion.
Just to be clear, I think the mover was Counselor Armstrong, and the seconder was somebody else. Who seconded the motion? Pardon? Counselor Boyce. That is the
think I
motion. We
seconded
can vote on it, turn it down, and create another motion. Are both of you willing to amend your motion, or have that motion go forward? Counselor Armstrong? Counselor Boyce?
I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I'll stick with it as well.
Okay, so we have the motion.
So, point of order,
Yes.
Chair, we can proceed with if we have a seconder for that motion to amend, we can proceed with that discussion, even if
No.
the.
No. What happens is, we make the decision, we have a mover and a seconder. If the committee turns that down, then you can bring forward a new motion.
So my understanding of the procedural bylaw is that it's only specific to notices of motions that are brought by committee members or councilors. So in the procedural bylaw, it doesn't specifically state that. It defers to the Roberts Rules of Order, in which amendments can be made to any motion.
I will defer to city staff. My understanding is, we have the motion on the floor, we vote on the motion. If it's turned down, then you can make a motion. I did not realize you could do an amended motion in the middle of the existing motion. So someone needs to help me here, or I'm just going to move on with how I would manage the meeting. Anybody, staff? I do have a procedural bylaw somewhere.
Madam Chair, I think
Yes.
you're absolutely correct. If
Thank
this motion is defeated, then you've got, if it isn't, then it's,
Yeah, that's how we'll move forward. So we have the motion.
So point
which
of order, we
includes-
still don't have a clarification from.
Well, we're not going to get that immediately, I don't believe, so I'm going to carry on.
I would ask for a recess then for a clarification from the clerk.
With respect to this, how long would this take? Because I don't really want a big recess here.
I guess the problem that I have with this is that if there may not be support to turn it down, because there's definitely support within the motion itself, even among the members that disagree with parts of it. So people may not be willing to vote against it. From my understanding with all meetings is that there is always the potential to make an amendment. If there is a seconder, then that amendment can be debated.
Conversely,
Unless
if
it's-
this is
unless it's
turned, if
specifically-
conversely, if this is turned down, then you would have the opportunity to make your motion. Either committee is all for the three recommendations, or they are not. Then you could bring yours forward. So it doesn't change anything. I'm going to move forward. So we have the motion as presented. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 2 or 3? 4. The motion is carried.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to point out too that the minutes of this meeting still have to go to council.
Council. That's right.
And people could come to that council meeting if they feel they have a issue or a concern and want to voice their issues or concerns, they can do that as well.
That is very helpful. Thank you, Counselor, for bringing that forward, because all of our recommendations go to council. Okay, we're going to move on to update on County Road 40 petition. So we have a report as well, and it is recommended by staff that the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee receive staff report PWES 25006, update on County Road 40 petition for information. I will have Mr. Angelo speak to this as well, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As committee members will recall, at the last meeting, there was a direction for staff to take a look at the line painting on County Road 40 in front of Tremor Lake, which we've done. And with that in mind, that section of road has been now painted with a double yellow center line so that passing in that area is now prohibited. So, and we've attached a couple pictures for your review, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Additionally, I did get a thank you note from the resident that came forward to the committee, the residents that came before the committee, thanking us for doing that.
Very nice, very nice. Questions or comments regarding the recommendation? Councillor Armstrong.
Will there be any signage put up about no passing beyond from here to there? Or is there anything like that in existence? Because this is new, the double line.
Through you, Madam Chair, we weren't planning on it at this point in time. I guess under the rules of the Highway Traffic Act, if you're going to, you shouldn't be passing on a double solid yellow line. So that's that you can get charged for that, I believe, under the Act. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Just
Yes,
a
Mayor.
General comment, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think the line painting was well done this year, Director Angelo. Thank you.
Member McLeod.
Unless something's changed, a yellow line on a road, in my experience, is a cautionary suggestion. I don't believe you can get charged for passing on a yellow line. You can get charged if it's a careless maneuver because of other circumstances, but solely a yellow line is not my experience.
I
It's-
thought you
It's
did.
strictly a recommendation. You can't be charged for it.
Oh,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in my experience, you need a sign posted that says no passing. And then there's certain guidelines that I'm sure Chris would understand about the distance, the size, the height of that sign and where it has to be placed. And that then is enforceable.
okay. Good information. I always thought you couldn't. I'll still be good. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. So the next report relates to Appledine Drive parking and stopping restrictions proposal. It is recommended that the committee recommends to council that no stopping and no parking zones be implemented at the path access location on Appledine Drive to support pedestrian safety, and that bylaw 24151 be amended as such. May I have a mover for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, a seconder for the recommendation. Seconder by Councillor Coetzee. Questions or comments on this report? Seeing none? Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, Member Duval.
It's a residential neighborhood. I'm sure some of the people that live there would like to be able to park in front of their homes. Would we be able to limit it to before and after school for the no parking, no stopping, as opposed to limiting the parking and stopping all the time?
I'll defer that to Mr. Angelo with regard to that question.
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess the simple answer is yes. However, this pathway isn't only restricted for during school hours. It's for any activities happening between, I guess, the subdivision. It's a link between the subdivision and the school that's there. And, you know, there's activities we know go beyond school hours, potentially even evenings and weekends. So when the construction or reconstruction of Second Dugga Road occurs with a paved pathway along the east side, we envision that there'll be even more pedestrian access, maybe using that access as well. So the simple answer is yes, we could do that, but staff are not recommending that at this time.
Member Warham?
I'll support the motion, not just because of the pathway, but just because of the geometry that's identified in the road, the curve. I do think that residents and visitors will have adequate parking at other areas along the street where they can park. It may not be right in front of their house, but I do support the recommendation of staff.
Other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we have a verbal report from Interim Chief Administrative Officer Chris Angelo regarding traffic calming initiatives currently being utilized on Leicester Road, Couch Crescent, and Montrose Road. Mr. Angelo, if you would like to speak to that, and then we'll have discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I want to do is just give committee members a bit of an update of where we're at with our, I'm going to say, again, pilot projects for traffic calming. Because again, as I mentioned in the previous report, that staff will be bringing back a further report towards the end of this year, early next year, on sort of the feedback and the comments that we received and how well these traffic calming initiatives have worked in different areas of the municipality. So we've installed the paved speed bumps in Centennial Park, along with some of the in-road bollards and in-road speed sign. Additionally, we've, on Leicester Road, we put in the three-way stop as approved by the committee, as well as the inline speed bollards as well. And we're currently doing the same, putting this week on Montrose Road and West Moyer Street, the inline bollards and sign, as well as the rubberized speed humps in those areas. One of the things, and some general feedback I got received from the communications team this afternoon, is the overall sentiment for these traffic calming initiatives, primarily on Leicester Road and on Couch Crescent, is that it's either mixed or neutral in terms of the comments. Some people are happy about the measures and some are not. Some of the residents have expressed some feedback about bike lanes and the ability to, where we do have or we don't have bike lanes in Centennial Park, that there's not enough room between the edge bollard and the curb for bicyclists. In addition, the lack of sidewalks or paved pathway in Centennial Park along Couch Crescent. And some of the comments about on Leicester Road were some of the street parking that's been allowed on those sections, on that section of the street, is sort of conflicting with the movements with regard to the inline bollards or the side sort of markers to slow people down. But in essence, I guess the traffic calming initiatives are working and slowing people down. But again, as I mentioned, we'll be bringing back a staff report on some of the information, some of the comments observed, some of the feedback that we received from the public, and that we can make decisions going forward on whether these are going to be permanent or looking at other alternatives or looking at other areas of the municipality where we can do traffic calming initiatives.
I'm going to go to questions. Thank you for that, Mr. Angelo. When we say we'll continue it to pilot and come back, are we looking at the end of the year or next year? When do you think we'll come back with the summation or?
Well, certainly the sort of the Leicester Road and Couch Crescent and Montrose Road, the inline bollards, which we had planned on taking out before wintertime. I'll bring a report back on the success of those. The permanent sort of speed bump or speed hump in Centennial Park, we're looking to see how that gauges over the winter season with snow plowing activities, how that works. So there'll be a more fulsome report coming back in the spring season with input from my Public Works Operations staff and the public as well.
Thank you. Members, we'll start with Councillor Quinte. Questions or comments regarding this report?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Angelo. So for citizens, if you're looking for the various traffic calming measures that are printed out, it was given at the October 7th, 2024 Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Committee member meeting, and you can find the list of traffic calming measures from page 38 to page 46, and I don't remember how many items are on the list, but they're all there and all listed and all printed out, and some of those that we are using on Couch Crescent and in Centennial Park and on Montrose Road and Leicester Road were all mentioned in that staff report. Thanks.
Armstrong?
Through you, Chair. You have speed humps on Couch Crescent and Montrose Road, but not Leicester Road. What was the rationale behind that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the discussion we had and the staff recommendation was because of the shorter distance and because we recommended the three-way stop at that location, in addition with the numerous driveways in that urban area, we didn't believe a speed hump in that area would be most effective, so we recommended the inline bollards in addition to the three-way stop. And again, it's about trying different initiatives and seeing what works best, providing that, getting that feedback from residents and from the community, bringing that back to the committee for another fulsome discussion on traffic calming initiatives in general.
Follow-up question. Was there any discussion or input coming in about removing parking along that strip because of the congestion it's causing? Cars on both sides, narrowing that whole situation, plus children playing around the cars, et cetera, et cetera.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's certainly a concern that's been raised with us, that we're getting that feedback from residents, so we're going to have to take a look at that in short order.
Member Warren?
Thank you, Chair. I personally like the idea that each of these locations is a little bit different. It gives us more information for the staff to identify, just as Mr. Angelo said. I'm pretty excited about these, not just as the traffic calming measures themselves, but because they are relatively inexpensive and can be quickly and easily deployed and also reused. Most of these tools can be deployed elsewhere if it's found, or simply moved if it's found that the specific location of a particular bollard is causing problems. It can be moved. So I'm particularly enthusiastic, and some of the reflections that Mr. Angelo shared are similar to the things that I've heard. I've talked to people that are in those areas, but also in other neighborhoods that have comments about specifically those traffic calming measures, but also interested in having something in their own neighborhood. So hopefully the feedback continues to come in, and we can move forward with these in the coming years.
Councillor Boyce or Councillor Reid, any comments with respect to that? Okay.
Nothing
Mayor
at this
Harrison,
time.
anything? No, you're good. Member Gregg?
Just on that comment about information, like what information did we gather? What information are we gathering so we know whether this is slowed traffic down, or is it just purely people's comments?
Mr. Angelo?
Yes, certainly we're looking for feedback from residents in those areas or in the community that uses those roadways. Additionally, we'll be requesting speed data on those areas, with either the speed spy from the OPP or speed trailers, so we can track that, whether that's changed behavior or not.
So do we have the speed data from before we put them in place?
Yes, we do.
Good, good. That's what I was interested in. All I've heard about is I have family that regularly walks Centennial Park. I drive through it all the time, and it doesn't matter to me whether they're there or not. I haven't seen a lot of change in traffic, but family that's walked there, they went up walking between the bollards and the curb, and they find it. I don't know why people think that that's designed for that, but they're doing it.
Right.
And they say it's too narrow and the cars come too close and stuff like that. So there might be some confusion for pedestrians around it. And we have a lot of pedestrians there.
Yeah, we do. Okay, everyone in favor to receive Mr. Angelo's update? Oh, did I not get a mover and seconder? Move to receive, moved by Member McKellen, seconded by Claire Allen. Member Allen, any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, new and other business from the committee or Mr. Angelo? New and other business, anyone? Okay, very good. I thank everyone for coming today. I thank everyone for their input. Appreciate the committee's work and staff on the reports. May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Quinte, seconded by Councillor Reid, and everyone is always in favor of adjournment. And have a great evening and afternoon. Bye-bye.